Cheers.
Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. It's me, Niall. Delighted as always to be joined by Paul, and we're here reacting to what we've just seen from the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham, England, as Anthony Cacace has stopped Lee Wood in the ninth round of an entertaining contest, a hugely anticipated clash between two former world champions, and yeah, it was billed as a winner stays on. And Paul, let's jump straight in. I hope you're well, first of all, as always. And yeah, just basically, what is your instant reaction to what we've just seen there? Kakachi stopping Wood in nine, and yeah, I'm very curious to see how you saw the fight. How would you score that fight up until the stoppage?
Yeah, thanks for having me on as always, mate. I think the I think Anthony Cacace was winning the fight anyway. It's not like he pulled the stoppage out of the bag when he was behind on the cards. So often we have seen Lee Wood do in the past. I think he deserved like from the get go. It looked like he was the sharper man. He was the bigger man. His long arms with the jab couldn't miss. Yeah, I think he looked like the bigger fighter, the fresher fighter in there. In saying that, I thought Lee would. I don't think he looked rusty as such. I don't really think that. Maybe just that he's in there against a world class fighter, and maybe it's been coming for a few years of with Leewood. Pulling those knockouts out of the bag, and then those dramatic finishes. You know, I think that fight went quite how I kind of thought it would. I big respect for both men, big fan of both men. But something told me that Kakachi would get the stoppage in the second half. I think I said round 7-9 actually the other day, so I'm going to take that as a win. But no, mate, I think apart from the third and maybe I can't remember what the other round was, it didn't give Leewood a whole lot. But in saying that, they weren't totally one-sided. It was fairly competitive early on. But I think is it from the sixth onwards, maybe, and Kakachi really put his foot on the gas. And then from there was only one winner. I'm sure we'll come on to the stoppage in a wee second, but I thought it was a very good stoppage from Ben Davison in the corner. Leewood, as we know, so brave. Wouldn't you have to nail him to the canvas, so to speak. Like he was all over the show and he just wasn't going down really. Um, so yeah, I think it was a good stoppage from Ben Davison. Because yeah, we don't want yeah, I just think that it was only one, it was only going one way. And we didn't need to see a conclusive out on his feet or out cold knockout for to know who was winning that fight. It was the stoppage was going to come in the next round if it hadn't been then. So yeah, fairly enjoyable, mate. And I think yeah, it actually looked very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, can't disagree with what you said there. Firstly, on the stoppage, where you just touched on, I do think it was a good stoppage. Ben Davison gets a lot of flack as a trainer. He's very divisive character, but I love to see that from cornermen. Looking out for their fighters' health first and foremost. The ref probably should have stopped it earlier. But it's good corner work. I think the ref, to be honest, was trying to stop it. I just think it was so hectic. I do think he was trying to get in there, but he just couldn't really keep up with Lee Wood and Kakachi stalking him. But yeah, it was a good stoppage and yeah, good performance from Anthony Kakachi. As you said, it kind of it went how you expected with the late stoppage. I know a lot of people said it'd be a late stoppage. What surprised me is that, Kakachi was the one kind of outboxing Lee Wood. A lot of people thought it'd be Kakachi, the bigger man, kind of out muscling Lee Wood and Lee Wood being the boxer. But yeah, Kakachi with a really good performance. That jab was beautiful. Executed to perfection all night. And yeah, good point you made on the size. A lot was made in the build up to this about the weight. Lee Wood was coming up. Kakachi struggles to, really boils himself down to 130. And you look at him and just think, how does he actually make 130? He's so big. He has those broad shoulders. Yeah, it's crazy. For a super featherweight, he is big, but yeah, I thought he looked good, and he was winning. I think he was winning the fight definitely before the stoppage. Yeah, I just thought it was a really, really good disciplined performance from Kakachi, and he proved as he did against Cardina. when he has his man hurt, he's like a shark that smells blood, really, you know. He just goes for the kill when he has his man on the hook. So yeah, brilliant performance
He's a
from.
clinical. He is a clinical. Sorry for interrupting me. He is a clinical finisher. Cacace, I think. Did Barry Jones say that in commentary? Like when he has his man hurt, he does not waste a lot. He doesn't just wing his punches in. Like he's still very accurate, composed, with his shots. Like when he had Lee Wood very hurt, like the uppercut kept landing and like shaking the head back of Wood. And yeah, he doesn't waste a whole lot. And another thing I would say, um, is that just when you look at Kakache's record, right, on paper, doesn't look like he's a puncher. But you hear from every single person he's shared the ring with, like Frampton says, he's probably sparred hundreds of rounds with him in the past. You know, we saw what he did to Joe Cordina. We've now seen what he's done to Lee Wood. He's clearly heavy-handed. I think if you actually look at a lot of his early fights in his career and the fights that did go the distance, there were fights that he like kind of won fairly comprehensively against people that maybe he came to survive, so to speak. But when there's people in there with real ambition themselves, the likes of a Joe Cordina, the likes of a Lee Wood, all of these guys, I think that's when the best has been brought out of Cacace. And like as we said there, I think he is far more heavier handed than his record suggests.
Yeah, definitely is. That's a record that definitely can be deceiving. His KO percentage, you know, as I say, we seen it against Cardina, you know, particularly to the body. You know, he brutalized Joe Cardina in that fight, and then again tonight, you know, we seen the effects the shots had on Lee Wood. So he's definitely a harder puncher, bigger puncher than he gets recognition for, or that his record suggests. So. Yeah, absolutely. It is a good show. Yeah, just before we kind of wrap up, you know, it's billed as a winner stays on. Kakachi now, 35, I believe. You know, not many big nights left, and you know, by his own admission, of course, he relinquished the IBF title. He wants big money fights. You know, it's the money over the world titles for him by his own admission, and you can't begrudge him that. But do you think Anthony Cacace has another world title in him in this super featherweight division? How do you think he'd match up against the world champions? Like, surely it's a world title fight next for Cacace, and do you think he could pull it off?
I mean, yeah, I think he definitely could. I think I know at 36 and maybe probably knows himself. He maybe only has three fights left, tops, maybe even including that. He might only have another couple, depending on how they go, of course. He's a fresh 36. Yes, it's big money, but I think, that's kind of taken care of now with he's got his profile's risen quite a lot. So I think he'll get paid quite lucratively, whatever. I mean, if I was Kakachi, I'd be waking up in the morning, after my celebrations and having a look at who wins the Navarrete Suarez fight. Think, yeah, I mean, you can't say again. But I know you might think that Suarez. I know you predicted Suarez to win, but saying Navarrete when he's a massive name, no reason you can't do Navarrete against actually for the WBO title potentially. You look at the other ones in the division, and I'm thinking, I think there is a world title still there for Cacace. I don't know about you, mate. I think Cacace is definitely a top three right now in the world. Obviously it won't be that IBF again. Would you back him to beat an Oshaki Foster's of this world? I probably would, yeah. Um, I think, yeah, gun to my head, I'll say he could win another world title. But if he doesn't, I don't think he'll care that much because he's won it, and it'll just be looking at that stage of his career, biggest money fights, prize fighting at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, biased Irish hat on. I hope you're right, and that he does have one more world title left in him. But yeah, the Navarrete fight tonight. That's a great shout if Navarrete does come through that. You know, it's a stateside fight as well. That could be on the horizon. Big money there, as you say. Or Shaki Foster. We've seen flaws in Foster before, so who knows? But hopefully he does get the big fight, you know, the big money fight, and he can pull a world title out of the bag because he does deserve it, and he seems to he's getting his flowers now the last couple of years, the last year or so since the Cardina win. So it's very interesting to see what's next for Anthony Cacace. That was just myself and Paul giving a quick reaction to what we've just seen from the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham. as Anthony Cacace has stopped Lee Wood in a highly anticipated clash in the super featherweight division. The towel coming in from Wood's corner in the ninth round after a dominant round from Anthony Cacace. So, yeah, big fights now on the horizon for Cacace again. Let us know what you think in the comments. What did you make of that performance? Who did you have winning? Did you have Cacace ahead? And yeah, what's next? Does he have one more world title run left in him? And what's next for Lee Wood? Is it the end of the road? Let us know what you think. Get involved down below. Please drop the video a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel at ESBR Boxing, follow us on all social media. And yeah, Paul, it was a pleasure and take care.
Cheers, mate. All the best.